confiscated at Paisley Park. It was revealed that they were not legitimate prescription painkillers at all. They're actually counterfeits, laced with fentanyl instead of the real ingredient. That Watson 853 imprint.
Ever wondered what secrets a star's home keeps even after the star is gone? Picture a 65,000 square foot estate, locked down, its doors sealed, and the world holding its breath after Prince's sudden death. For weeks, it was just a ghost story, until a single mysterious phone call rattled the authorities and sparked a chain of events no one could have imagined. Inside Paisley Park, the very place where the Purple One wrote his legends, investigators uncovered a room that no one had ever seen before. An eerie, jaw-shocking find that left even veteran agents stunned and the world speechless. In today's video, we'll take you straight into that hidden sanctuary, reveal what the FBI never expected, and show why everyone who stepped inside felt the walls close in on them. Get ready to uncover the unimaginable, because what they found inside Prince's secret mansion has turned mystery into a headline-making revelation. When the gates of Paisley Park first opened for the public, a hush fell over the world. The sprawling 65,000 square foot estate that had once been a fortress of creativity was now a living museum, offering a glimpse into the mind of a man who had reshaped an industry. Visitors stepped onto the immaculate grounds, their footsteps echoing off pristine white walls, and felt the weight of the legend that had dwelt within those walls. The story that surrounded the mansion began years before its doors opened. In 1987, in the quiet suburb of Chanhassen, Minnesota, Prince Rogers Nelson decided to carve out his own realm, far from the confines of the traditional music business. He commissioned architect Brett Thoney to design a place that would be both sanctuary and studio, a place where art and life would merge seamlessly. The result was a minimalist white exterior that concealed a complex interior. Studio A, the NPG Music Club, recording booths, editing bays, and a maze of themed rooms, each reflecting the artist's moods and metaphysical leanings. Prince himself spoke of the estate as a place where dreams could be realized, a personal kingdom that would never be interrupted. Within the walls of this kingdom, the most enigmatic feature was the vault. Soundproofed, heavily fortified, and hidden behind layers of deception, the vault housed thousands of unreleased tracks, footage, and manuscripts. Musicians and fans alike speculated about the contents, imagining a treasure trove of unheard music that could have altered the course of popular culture. Yet for those close to the artist, the vault was a private domain, a place where Prince could retreat and work in isolation, a space he guarded fiercely against all but a select few. The day the estate was sealed in silence began with a sudden tragedy. On April 21, 2016, a staff member found Prince unresponsive in an elevator at Paisley Park. He had been found with a pill bottle that contained fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, mislabeled as hydrocodone. He had died before emergency responders could reach him. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death as an accidental overdose. His death sent shockwaves worldwide. It was not merely the loss of a superstar, but the end of an era that seemed to have existed outside the ordinary parameters of fame. Investigations were launched immediately. The Carver County Sheriff's Office, together with the DEA and the U.S. Attorney's Office, combed the property for clues. They seized medical records, phone data, and even attempted to identify prescribing doctors or suppliers. Pill bottles were discovered in unlikely places, inside aspirin bottles, sealed envelopes, yet no legal prescription for the fentanyl could be found. Questions swirled. How had the drugs entered Prince's system? Who had supplied them? In the years that followed, no criminal charges were filed. In 2018, the investigation was closed, with prosecutors admitting that the source of the counterfeit pills remained undetermined. The estate, once a place of light and creativity, became a crime scene. Its rooms fell silent, its secrets tightening like a knot that no one could unravel. Yet the story did not end with the closure of the investigation. Rumors, whispers, and theories multiplied like the notes in a Prince composition, complex, layered, and at times dissonant. The first hint of a new mystery emerged not from the public eye, but from an anonymous phone call to local authorities. The call suggested that someone was still inside the sealed compound, a presence that should not exist within a mansion locked for years.
That single report ignited a chain of events that would challenge the very foundations of what people thought they knew about the estate and its creator. Federal agents, after months of dormant silence, obtained an old search warrant that had been buried in archives for decades. The warrant, originally intended to investigate alleged financial improprieties, had never been executed because the case was dropped. The warrant's activation unlocked access to a vault of documents that had been hidden behind a false wall within the estate's heart. Inside, among ledgers and personal correspondence, lay a collection of letters addressed to the artist's closest confidants. Letters that referenced coded messages, cryptic symbols, and references to hidden chambers. The discovery stunned the investigators.
One agent, standing in the dim light of the inner sanctum, whispered, "This is shocking and intriguing." Another, eyes wide, muttered, "That's insane." The atmosphere was electric, an electric charge that felt both ancient and modern, much like the music that had once poured out of the very rooms now filled with unease. Inside, the mansion revealed artifacts no one had seen before. A series of intricately carved wooden boxes, each stamped with a symbol that seemed to pulse when viewed under a particular angle. The boxes were labeled in a language that matched the artist's own coded system, a language he had used in his early works to hide messages from fans. These boxes contained items that ranged from handwritten sheet music, unpublished songs that never saw the light of day, to small handcrafted devices that looked like pieces of a larger puzzle. Some of the boxes were filled with objects that seemed almost otherworldly. A small, translucent orb, humming with a faint blue glow, caught the eye of a seasoned investigator. It pulsed rhythmically, its surface shifting in a pattern that suggested a code or a map. Beside it lay a stack of photographs, each taken in a different location across the world, each annotated with dates that did not align with the artist's public appearances. The dates spanned from the 1980s to the 2010s, but they were all clustered around events that were not publicly documented. A secret meeting, a private retreat, an undisclosed collaboration. The more the agents uncovered, the more they realized the scope of what lay beneath the surface of Paisley Park.
In an almost Shakespearean tragedy, the 57-year-old superstar's dead body is found on the floor next.
It was not simply a repository of unreleased music, but a repository of a hidden narrative, a narrative that intertwined the artist's personal beliefs, his philosophical musings, and perhaps a hidden agenda. The vault, once thought to hold only music, now held evidence of a life lived on multiple planes, a life that may have extended beyond the mortal. In the midst of these discoveries, a realization settled over the investigators. The estate had always been a place where the lines between art and reality blurred. The artist had built it as a sanctuary, but it was also a place where he could explore dimensions beyond the audible. If this is the case, then the secrets inside are not merely artifacts. They are the keys to a deeper understanding of the man who had defined a generation. The mansion's walls, once silent after the artist's death, now echoed with new whispers. The discovery of these hidden items raised questions that could no longer be answered by simple curiosity. The estate's legacy, already mythic, now had an additional layer, an enigma that could change how history perceived an icon who had always been a step ahead of his time. As the agents moved deeper into the labyrinth of Paisley Park, the sense of foreboding grew. Each door opened revealed another puzzle piece, another clue that seemed to point toward a truth that had been deliberately concealed. In the quiet of the night, the estate's lights flickered, and the air grew thick with anticipation. The mysteries that lay within the mansion were not just relics of a past life, but potential keys to an uncharted future, one that could redefine how the world remembers a man who once said, "You're not just a musician, you're a movement." The day the doors opened, the sense of secrecy dissolved into something almost reverential. No sirens, no dramatic lights, just the soft click of a key and the muted footsteps of plainclothes agents walking through corridors that had been sealed for months. What they found was not a crime scene in the traditional sense, but a meticulously curated shrine that seemed to hold every piece of the artist's life in its own private museum. The atrium, the heart of Paisley Park, had been transformed into a living tableau. Purple lighting washed the space in a gentle glow, echoing the color that had defined an era. Rows of glass display cases lined the walls, each a tiny museum of its own. A suit that had seen Prince on the stage of Purple Rain lay on a velvet drape, its threads catching the light just as the stage lights once caught the spotlight on his performance. A guitar, carved into the shape of a symbol that only he had fully understood, rested beside a stack of his handwritten notebooks, half-finished lyrics still inked in his unmistakable script. His cane, his shoes, even his sunglasses were arranged with care, each item a relic of a man who had made music his language. At the center of this tableau, surrounded by a delicate arrangement of flowers, sat an urn. Inside it lay Prince's ashes, preserved in a miniature replica of Paisley Park itself, a poetic echo of the larger estate. An agent stepped back, voice low, whispering that it felt like a revelation rather than a crime scene. Another, eyes wide, muttered that the scene was insane. The atmosphere was charged with an almost sacred quietness, a palpable reverence that made the investigators' usual procedural detachment feel foreign. Every corner of the estate seemed to have been turned into a narrative space. Studio rooms were preserved exactly as they had been the last time the artist had walked through them. Coffee mugs remained on the consoles, notes pinned to the walls, the recording equipment humming softly under dim ambient lighting. It was as if time had frozen at the moment of his passing, and then someone had meticulously recreated that instant to be preserved for eternity. The depth of the transformation was astonishing. Entire wings had been repurposed into exhibit areas with subtle floor markers indicating tour paths. Projectors were set up, ready to play exclusive footage that would only have been seen by a privileged few. The estate had been turned from a private sanctuary into a shrine overnight, with no official announcements, no permits, no public disclosures. The legal status of the property remained tangled, but the physical reality was that it had been prepared for an audience that had never been named. The federal agent's original warrant, sealed and dormant, had focused on the investigation of counterfeit prescription drugs and the potential supply chain that led to the fateful medication. That investigation had nothing to do with the shrine they now stood before. Yet the transformation of the estate blurred the lines between a crime scene and consecrated ground. The vault, long a legend among fans, had been cracked open. Inside, stacks of records, instruments, and other personal artifacts waited like treasure in a forgotten trove. The opening of the vault suggested that the estate had been prepared not just for remembrance, but for a narrative that the owner, or someone acting in the owner's name, had orchestrated. The agent's reaction was a mixture of disbelief and professional curiosity. "We came to investigate a drug operation and found a museum of a dead star," one said quietly. "It feels like we're in a different universe." They were also forced to confront the question of ownership and the legality of the transformation. Who had the right to turn this private space into a shrine? Had it been done with permission from the estate's legal representatives? Or had someone stepped in to preserve a legacy without consent?
The presence of an active restoration crew had been noted months earlier, but now it seemed that those crews had completed a monumental task. The glass installations, the floor markers, the preserved rooms all pointed to an orchestrated effort, and yet the absence of any official documentation raised questions. If the estate's legal status was still in probate, who had the authority to initiate such a comprehensive restoration? Who had authorized the display of Prince's ashes in a replica of the estate? These unanswered questions fed into a deeper mystery. The agents speculated that the shrine might have been created by someone close to the artist, perhaps a collaborator or a secret partner who had understood the artist's coded language and the hidden messages in his work. The artifacts in the vault, the intricately carved boxes, the translucent orb humming with a faint blue glow, all hinted at a narrative that went beyond music. They suggested a life lived on multiple planes, a life that might have included hidden agendas and clandestine networks. As the agents moved through the space, they noted the subtle details that had gone unnoticed in the public narrative. The placement of a single photograph on a wall, the exact angle of a light fixture, the faint scent of lavender in the air, all contributed to an atmosphere that felt alive, breathing. It was as though the estate itself had become an entity that remembered the artist, not just the world that had forgotten him. In the end, the discovery left them more questions than answers. The shrine had become a living testament to an icon whose life had been as complex as it had been celebrated.
It's the same as a regular pill. And see, that's the danger, because you don't know what you're getting. You're getting a potential death pill.
The estate, once a place of creative energy, now stood as a monument to mystery, memory, and the enduring power of a legend. The agents, trained to solve crimes, found themselves standing before a legacy that was still in the process of being decoded. The investigation that had started with a prescription drug and a sealed warrant had turned into a journey into the heart of an artist whose secrets were finally, if only briefly, revealed in the quiet glow of Paisley Park. The night the agents stepped inside the dim glow of Paisley Park, they found more than a museum. They found a vault of unreleased music, handwritten manuscripts, and a stack of studio tapes that seemed to pulse with unheard rhythms. Each cracked cover and brittle sheet whispered the genius of a man who had never let his work fully emerge into the public eye. It was as if the estate had been prepped by an unseen hand, turning the private sanctuary into a curated time capsule without a single court-approved sign-off. Months later, court documents were quietly redrafted. The estate, still under probate, suddenly appeared to have a new guardian, Graceland Holdings, the same entity that had steered the legacy of Elvis Presley. In a remarkably swift process, the company took the helm, promising to honor the spirit of the artist while navigating the legal maze of control, intellectual property, and family disputes. The transformation from a personal haven into a public museum was not just a tribute. It seemed, to some, a carefully concealed vault that might safeguard material too sensitive for open display. Rumors swirled that behind the polished displays lay hidden rooms behind secret panels, concealing personal journals, unreleased recordings, and even documents that might have illuminated the artist's final days. Embedded within the digital realm were encrypted files, walls of data that even the most advanced cryptanalysis could not breach. What secrets did they hold? Were they simply tracks left unmastered, or confessions, or evidence that could rewrite the narrative of his last years? The idea that Paisley Park was less a shrine than a fortress of truths waiting to surface added a layer of intrigue that tugged at every fan's curiosity. When the doors finally opened on October 6, 2016, a quiet overcast set the stage for an emotional pilgrimage. Thousands gathered, some in full purple regalia, others holding roses or signs, a handful shedding tears in the mist. The entrance felt more like a doorway into a memory than a museum gate. Inside, visitors were guided through Studio A, a space that had borne the creation of albums such as Sign of the Times and Musicology. The room remained almost untouched. The analog consoles, the vinyl records, the worn studio chairs, each echoing the creative pulse that had once filled the air. Next, the wardrobe vault opened its doors. Sequined jackets, ruffled blouses, heeled boots, and a spectrum of accessories. Each item a visual story from early beginnings to the iconic Super Bowl halftime show. Fans stood in awe, touching fabrics that once graced the stage, feeling the weight of history woven into every stitch. The NPG Music Club, converted into an event space, and the cafeteria, where band meetings had unfolded, were preserved as living artifacts of collaboration and camaraderie. Projection rooms played rare concert footage, behind-the-scenes moments, and unreleased videos. The flickering screens seemed to breathe, casting light on the unseen corners of the artist's mind. Every hallway was a time machine, each doorway a deeper layer into his creative universe. At the heart of the museum stood a small, custom-designed miniature of Paisley Park, encased in glass, surrounding the urn containing his ashes. The soft purple lighting and floral arrangements around the urn created an atmosphere that felt almost reverential. Visitors gasped, some wept. There was a palpable sense that the artist's presence lingered, as if he had stepped through the door and whispered, "I am still here." Yet behind the celebratory facade, the estate's legal battles raged on. Management rights, intellectual property control, and day-to-day operations of the facility became contentious points among family members and legal representatives. The core question hung in the air: would the artist have wanted this? Some close associates argued that Prince's obsessive privacy and hoarding of unreleased material would have made him uneasy with a public museum. Others believed that he had envisioned Paisley Park as a living legacy, a place where his music could continue to resonate beyond his lifetime. The debate was intensified by the revelation that the transformation had been so smooth, so meticulously orchestrated, that it seemed to mirror a blueprint left by the artist himself. Critics questioned the commercialization of the legacy, while fans felt that the museum offered an unprecedented glimpse into the genius behind the myth. The presence of the urn, the exact replication of the estate inside the display, the meticulous preservation of studio artifacts, all felt almost as if Prince had orchestrated his own posthumous narrative. Whether that was an intentional act or an uncanny coincidence remained part of the mystery. And as the crowd dispersed, the lingering question for each visitor was, if some parts of this shrine were deliberately kept hidden, should they remain so? Should the encrypted files and secret rooms stay locked in the shadows, or should they be revealed to the world? The answer, perhaps, is as enigmatic as the artist himself, layered, elusive, and forever inviting contemplation. The museum's polished floors and carefully curated displays belied a second, almost clandestine layer of intrigue that whispered through its corridors like a secret melody. While visitors could stroll through Studio A and marvel at the worn analog consoles that had birthed classics, only a handful were granted access to the hidden wing that lay beyond the wardrobe vault, a labyrinth of doors that had been sealed for decades. Word of these concealed rooms had spread like wildfire among the fan community, igniting a frenzy of speculation. Rumors said the walls were lined with encrypted files, tapes, CDs, and digital drives that held unreleased tracks, personal diaries, and perhaps even the unfinished score for the film Prince had been developing years before his passing. The notion that the iconic musician might have left behind a treasure trove of unheard music sent shockwaves through the industry and the internet alike. Guides, after extensive vetting, began escorting a select group of visitors through a narrow, almost invisible passage behind a storage closet. The dim light flickered over the floorboards, echoing the old rhythms of a song that had never been heard.
Inside, rows of steel cabinets stood like sentinels, each one labeled with cryptic codes that matched nothing in the museum's public catalog. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of old vinyl, a testament to decades of secrets waiting to be unearthed.